Thanks for staying with us. I'm Laura Ingraham, in for Bill O'Reilly. And in the Factor follow-up segment tonight, 3 hot legal topics, including an extortion plot targeting movie mogul Harvey Weinstein and a surprisingly light sentence for a man who threatened President Obama. But first, James Holmes, that man accused of killing 12 people in the Aurora movie theater massacre last month, in court today. And now it's being reported that Holmes saw 3 mental health experts in the time leading up to the shooting. So let's turn to the attorneys Deborah Blum and Joey Jackson in New York to sort out what this all means. All right, Joey, let's start with you because he actually appears in court today. We find out, among other things, that he had been essentially banned from the University of Colorado campus after the police were warned about the threats that he had made. What gives here?
It is problematic for a number of reasons because what does it say? If you're under the care of 3 different psychiatrists, it goes to show that the university had knowledge as to his potential for doing things that would represent a public danger. So that's an issue. It's further an issue when, in fact, he's banned from the campus, his ID is taken away from them because it goes to show that there could have been other preventative measures put in place, Laura, which could have potentially saved lives. And so that's what the problem here is at the outset.
So, Deborah, we're looking at, aside from this criminal case, we're looking at potential liability for the university, for the officials involved, for perhaps not stepping forward and doing more to keep the campus safe or keep the public at large safe. And what Holmes's attorneys are saying is, no, you can't have my school records because that would be an invasion of my privacy because some of the medical commentary might be infused in the school records because of the school psychiatrists and so forth. Is that going to hold up?
Well, I agree with the defense's approach here. I think that the prosecution is going on a fishing expedition to try to vitiate the physician-patient privilege. And a lot of that material contained in the medical records is privileged, and the prosecution is going to argue if he communicated that to a third party, it waives the privilege. So it's very important for the prosecution to argue for it to come in, and it's very important for the defense to try to keep it out. With respect to the university's responsibility here and whether they're going to be held liable, I do believe that the Dr. Fenton, did do her duty to disclose to the university, both the police as well as the task force they had set up there, that this student had an issue. What the university did with that information, I really think, is going to be at the center of the investigation.
Lord, I have time briefly to respond?
Yeah, sure, quickly.
Look, here's the point. The point is, here's why I think both are coming in. As to the university records, I think it's relevant. Why? It goes to show his state of mind. And we need to know what his state of mind was, what his motivations were, what his intent is. And as a result of that, I think it ultimately comes in. Also, Laura, I also believe that they're going to get the medical records in. Briefly, here's why. If you as a defense are raising his mental status as an issue, you can't have it both ways. If you're going to put that at issue, you, in essence, are waiving the privilege because now the prosecution, you open the door. The prosecution has to establish that, the opposite. And so I think
they have to be able to rebut, and they could rebut given some of the stuff that's in this material. It could end up waiving the privilege. Let's move on to this Harvey Weinstein case. He and other very well-to-do individuals across the country had been the subject of an extortion plot by this one individual. Deborah, tell us what we know about this. We have all these people worth probably collectively a couple of $1 billion, if not more, subjected to these bizarre plots, family threats, and so forth.
Well, I think we're very early on in this case. He was just arrested. What we do know is that he's charged with something called the Hobbs Act, which is a very, very serious crime that's punishable up to 20 years in jail. And it was an attempt at an extortion. So what this is going to hinge on is whether his actions were enough for the prosecution to establish that he had committed enough acts in an attempt to commit this extortion. I do think that this is a relatively defendable case. I don't know that enough steps were taken to actually prove that he committed this Hobbs Act.
Well, he's an aspiring actor. He probably didn't get the role that he wanted in Ocean's 12 or what, I don't know.
He's going down.
Yeah, let's talk, Joe. We got to move on quickly to this
I don't know if I
Facebook
agree
issue.
with you that he's going down.
Well, we'll see. We got to
too
move on,
many
guys.
letters.
The Facebook issue. We got to bring that, Joey. We got to get your take on this. This kid in, where was it, Florida? Comes forward. He thinks he's joking on text messaging about the president coming to his campus. Tell us quickly the jeopardy he was in and why he seems to get a slap on the wrist here.
Well, surprisingly, I think it's the right result, and here's why. If you look at the criminal justice system, one of the tenets is rehabilitation. We're talking about a college student who did something rather stupid. You don't threaten the president. You don't say, bullets should be put in his head, and you don't do it to coincide with a trip he's taking to Miami where you are. So totally inappropriate acts.
Probation. Probation. House arrest or home arrest.
It's discretion. It's within the federal judge's discretion to sentence somebody outside of the guidelines, and that's exactly what she did here. And I agree with Joey. It was the right result. You're going to rehabilitate this individual.
Yeah, he faced 5 years in prison, and he gets 6 months at home with 3 square meals a day
It was a
cooked by
crime of
mommy.
Stupidity.
I mean, come on, that's a pretty light sentence for saying they're going to put a bullet in the head of the president or
He'll
showing
rise
it in
again.
a
It
picture.
was immature.
Well, hopefully he won't. Hopefully he'll be rehabilitated.
Spoken as a true defense attorney. Speaking as a former defense attorney myself. Thanks, guys. We appreciate it.